The first thing we need to understand in Create is how to make and use power. You can use power in Create, unlike most mods, as rotational power or stress, kinetic stress. Kinetic energy in the science world is the energy made from movement, and that is basically how we generate energy in Create. There's going to be a few main ways to do this at the start of the game. One thing you will note is that I have an overlay on my screen saying generator stats, kinetic stress capacity. That is from the engineer's goggles. They're very easily made of some glass, etc., and a golden sheet, which is made with Create, and that allows us to oversee how much kinetic stress we're using at the current speed on our machines. So, let's get going. The first and simplest way to generate rotational power would be a hand crank, needing andesite alloy. That is going to be andesite and 2 iron nuggets. And this is going to be massively used in the Create mod, so I'd make a lot of it. If you want to make the engineer's goggles, I'm going to be showing you an example of how we would use this hand crank. So as you can see here, there's a little, this bit sticking out. Can you see it's moving on here? This is like the bearing, I guess, that is moving the wheel. So I can add my hand crank onto that bearing, and what I can then do is hold down, right click, and I can use the hand crank. You can see it's making 256 units at current speed. So this item here is a mechanical press. A mechanical press is made with an andesite casing, which you can see here, I can use an andesite alloy and on any type of stripped wood. So simply get your andesite alloy, use it on stripped wood, and you get an andesite casing. We can use that with a block of iron and a shaft, which is just 2 andesite alloy, to make our mechanical press. Get your mechanical press, throw in a gold ingot under it, use the hand crank, boom! And there we go. We now have a golden sheet, and you can make your own engineer's goggles so we can see how fast our items are working. Now, of course, the hand crank is very manual, and therefore, what I would really advise you to do is make a windmill or, sorry, a water wheel or a windmill. So what we can do here is, if we look at the water wheel to start off with, very simply made, we could just place it down here. I'm going to cut out, I don't think you need to even dig this bit up, but, you know, I'm going to. And then on this bit here, I'm just going to place, not on top, because obviously, like, I mean, you can do, but it needs to be flowing water. So what I would recommend is having the water maybe like here, for example. It's quite easy to set up, as you can see. And then what I can do is add things onto this water wheel. So I could go and get my shaft, and I can click it onto this bit, and as you can see, it automatically connects when I right click, and that's turning these. And I can add lots more machinery onto this. And as we can see, it's making 256 units. The big version is making 512. Simply made, it's a small wheel with loads of added planks around them for more. Then we have the windmills. These are going to be a bit more interesting. So we've got a windmill bearing here, made again with some, basic materials. I can place it down here, and it already has some glue on it. I can then add a piece of oak strip log or any item you want. And then what we're going to use is windmill sails. And what I could do is I can add these like this onto here, and I can add as many as I want, really, on each side. And then what I can do is I can right-click the bearing. You see it says hold click to rotate the edit. So if I just right-click it, it starts turning and generating, as you can see here, 1,000. Right-click it again, it will stop. Now on this little arrow, if I click and hold, I can switch it to counterclockwise. Right-click it, and now the windmill is going the other way. Now I am going to show you something a bit better. As you can see, this windmill bearing can go up to 8,000. What we can do with a lot of create items is hold W to ponder. So I'm going to hold that down, and as you can see, it's going to show me an ideal setup with this windmill. So what you could do is add on one log, and then even add on some trapdoors, and then add on your windmill bits, etc., etc. You can also dye these by just adding blue dye, for example, to your windmill. But as you can see, the windmill is turning. You can make this as big or as small as you like. We can then add some cogs onto the back of the bearing, and that can then attach to, whatever machinery, again, that we want. And these are going to be the three most basic ways that you are going to generate rotational power in Create. We can, of course, use the windmill in this direction, like this. It's completely up to you. So let's actually see this in action. What I've done here is I've got my water wheel spinning this way. If it was spinning the other way, it would do the opposite, and that's going to make more sense in a second. I've added on some shafts, and then what we have is a gearbox. So a vertical gearbox, you can see the shaft is going in and then up. So that's how we can turn corners, etc. So it's going in here, up there, in here, down here, and I'm just using this as an example. What I've then added on is an encased fan. What that fan is doing is it's blowing out air. So if I get rid of the lava, you can see the air particles blowing out. If the water wheel was blowing the other way, then the fan would be blowing, or it would be sucking in air. But because it's blowing that way, it's pushing out air. You could use this for a mob farm. As you can see, it's going to be actually... Oh God, I can't get out. It's going to be pushing me away very slowly. What I can also do with this encased fan is put lava here, and it will heat up the air that is pushed out. And then I could just throw down some iron ore, and it might take about 20, 30 seconds or so, but this hot air will eventually turn this iron ore into iron ingots, like the ones I made earlier here. And that's just an example of how we can use the power that we are making. One other item I want to show you before we go any further is the wrench. This is going to turn items around. Can you see on this encased fan there's like an arrow pointing this way? If I right click with the wrench, it's now pointing down. Now it's pointing this way. Now it's pointing up, for example. But when it's pointing up, it's not working. And that's because, remember, that the bearing is there. And on an encased fan, we can see that the bearing is at the back. So if I wanted it to place upwards, then I'd need the bearing that's giving it rotational power to come from below. So always be mindful of that when you're using your contraptions. But that is how you make basic power in Create. Thanks for watching, and before you go, I just want to say, if you want to join the Patreon in the description, that really helps support the channel, and you get access to our premium servers like this one here, which is currently ATM 10 at the time of filming. Of course, if you're watching a year after posting, it could be ATM 11, 12, or even maybe 13. We also do offer free-to-play servers, which you could just join the Discord to get, and if you'd like your own server, then check out the description for our G Portal 10% off with my link. Lastly, if you're new here, don't forget to check out the channel. I have an insane amount of mods available. As you can see, loads of tech mod guides, magic mod guides, utility mod guides. There is literally hundreds of guides that I have done. My goal here is to do every single mod in Minecraft.